Sup, welcome to Tobes Trades. It is Monday, 1/11/2021, and wowza, today was kind of crazy. Let's look at the indices. They all opened gapped low around -1 or -2%, especially for the Nasdaq. However, since then they bounced, and after lunch hour they faded a little bit. However, what's important here is that they did fade, but they closed above, were very near the open, so it's not horrible news. Let's see which sector was green today. First, TLRY, the wheat companies, as well as CGC, Canopy Growth Company. These are all based off of recent politics, especially the Dems winning Senate, and also Governor Cuomo recently hinted at legalization of marijuana in New York. Sounds pretty good. Let's look at technicals. You see this channel here that started all the way back in September? It broke through it once on positive news on the election. However, now it's near the top of the channel again, and is breaking out near the top. Will this hold? Not sure, but if it does and it opens tomorrow, it's looking very good. However, do know that TLRY is very, very volatile. So if you do want to enter a position, you might want to be careful. Right, because if it does break out, it could gain a lot since it's breaking out like channel. Look at the last time it broke out, plus 23%, and at the top it went to $12, which is where we're at today. Especially the overall industry trends for cannabis companies are all positive, especially with the recent elections. And just in case it does fail to break out and bounces back, you know where to buy the dip. Buy the dip somewhere around this trend line when it bounces. So that's it for cannabis companies. Focus on TLRY tomorrow. It could break out. Remember my words. What's next? The growth stocks. Etsy looking really, really good actually. Remember, if you want to see a bounce, you want to see high volume and a piercing bullish engulfing candle, which pierced the previous flush candle, which looks very good, and it stopped and parked right at the previous resistance. If the market conditions do look tomorrow, expect Etsy to go up again. So put this on your watch list. So we have TLRY, Etsy. Crowd is something I'm actually holding myself. I entered somewhere near the end of the market around here. But let's look at the daily. Daily looks awesome. What's important to note is that I didn't really care where I bought here. I traded it all the way up here a little bit. I made some gains. But mainly, it closed above the previous all-time highs, right? You see here? It parked right above it. As you see, this is also important when you factor in the fade we talked about earlier for the indices, the Nasdaq, the Dow, the S&P, the Russell. For example, let's look at something such as NVIDIA, the chips, right? It went all the way up to 6% today. But then, after lunch, bam, faded all the way down here. But guess what? Stronger. This is when you can see which stocks are strong and which stocks are weak. When you look at crowd, wow, did not fade at all. I mean, it did fade, of course, it did fade, but it still parked well above its key support level, which was the previous resistance. If market conditions look good tomorrow, expect this to gap up, since they closed above all-time highs and the MACD signal turning positive. So that's the third stock on our watch list. We have TLRY, we have Etsy, we have crowd. And let's look at semis. Semis had a okay day, right? So remember this ugly candle. After Micron posted earnings, all the semis flushed. Look at TSMC, ugly ass candle. Everyone wanted to buy the dip here, but this candle was just too ugly for anyone to buy the dip. And today, it did bounce up, which is surprising, and which is good news because it just means this flush candle probably didn't mean anything because Micron beat and raised guidance and says the sector is about to turn positive, right? The demand for chips, especially due to the COVID, which all the computers, the memories, and also like a lot of other factors are leading to an uptrend in DRAM and NAND pricing. So that looks really good for semiconductors. However, like I said, look at this candle for Micron. Bam, ugly as fuck, right? So if you do want to buy a dip here, semis look pretty good. But expect some consolidation because even though this candle didn't mean anything, it still had pretty high volume, 50 million. 50 million in volume. And that was a false breakout candle. So it looks kind of scary. So for semiconductors, be aware for now. And especially be aware of AMD and NVIDIA, because they both faded a lot. If you look at their 5-minute charts, they look very similar. They were all going for breakouts, right? You see this wick, you see this tail. If they did not fade and kept this bullish engulfing candle and do not have this tail, tomorrow looks really good. But this fade worries me, especially this key level. You see here, this pink line, that was a heavy resistance, and they closed below it. So watch out for chips tomorrow. Same thing for Xilinx and also a lot of other semiconductor stocks, like the ETF as well. Let's look at what else. So Roku, whoa, look at Roku today. Look at this candle, kind of ugly. So it opened all the way up. I remember around lunchtime it was up 5-6%, but then bam, it faded again. So that looks kind of ugly for Roku, and especially since there's this huge gap here. But due to recent strength in Roku, I do expect it to, at the worst, consolidate in this range for a little bit. But I expect the overall trend long term to be continued positive. Fiverr, same story. It didn't fit as much today, which is actually pretty good. If you want to go into Roku or Fiverr, I would suggest Fiverr. Parked right above its previous resistance point, which is here. Let me actually draw a line. Don't know why. I don't know where this line went, but as you see, it closed above the previous resistance, and now it's support. However, if you look at the overall broader market, was ugly. Fang. Let's look at first number of Fang. Facebook. Where's Facebook? Somewhere here. Yeah, here. -4%. Oof. So all the social media companies today actually went down dramatically. Let's look at Twitter. It's not part of Fang, but just look how ugly this candle was. However, if you saw this, I did trade it all the way up back here. When this candle flushed on the 5-minute, I exited, so I made a decent profit today. I made about like $900, which I didn't hit my daily goal today. Just gonna say that. I mean, I was close, but the market just faded. I didn't want to buy the dip, so I just left the trading desk today. But anyway, if you do want to buy a dip though, I would suggest Twitter, because if you look at this, it bounced exactly at this long-term trend line, and it went all the way up here intraday to $49. It couldn't break a 49.5. I saw a huge sell order on the level 2, and which is why I sold. However, if you know, it didn't really fade all that much, right? It's because again, Twitter is down because it banned Donald Trump, exactly, the sitting president, and there's a lot of talk about boycotting Twitter, etc. And that is kind of worrying, because Twitter's daily active users is what? Like 300 million? Donald Trump has what? 80 million followers? But it has got down low enough to a point where I will buy the dip, because long term, I don't expect this to affect Twitter way too much, because there is no current replacement for Twitter. Parler, for example, is banned. There is no alternative. So people are stuck with Twitter. However, long term, I do not like Twitter from a strategic perspective. They haven't innovated in years. It's been the same shit all over for the past 6-7 years. They haven't been innovating. That's why if you want to look at Facebook, it went all the way down to the support today, as you see. Pretty heavy support. So if you want to buy a dip here, you want to buy Facebook as well. And also the Facebook is even dip is even more unjustified, because Facebook only indefinitely banned Donald Trump, and Facebook has way many daily active users, especially globally, for this Donald Trump drama to have any effect. So if you're just investing long term, these are free dips. It's a fire sale. It's on sale. 4% off today. Feel free to buy Facebook or Twitter. That's long term. However, short term, expect Donald Trump is supposedly coming out with some crackdown policies on big tech, but he only has a few days left in office, and I don't expect that to do any harm long term. However, short term, drama can always cause a sell off, and if it breaks this support level, it could crash all the way down to around the 220 level, like around here. But long term is at least in terms of like a week or a month, Facebook and Twitter are awesome buys. Awesome buys. Same story for Apple and Amazon. Fang just didn't have energy today. And if you look at this triangle, actually, this consolidation triangle, Amazon is actually going below the line I drew. So this is kind of worrying because when let's look at the weekly. This gives a more a better view of how bad today was for FANG, because Amazon was about to break out. If you look at this candle, right, on the last week of December 2020, Amazon was about to break out. However, it flushed, it couldn't break out, false breakout, and now we have this candle all the way down here. So if you want to buy a dip, I wouldn't suggest Amazon, because Amazon has broken through its 3 months long consolidation level, all the way, well, 6 months long, all the way into from June or July of last year. So if you want to buy a dip, I suggest Twitter or Facebook. And now let's look into the best stocks we want to look at today. Of course, I'm in crowd, which is good. Right, we already went over crowd. Let's look at the daily. We already went over it. Looking pretty good. I'm only in 2 positions overnight, because I don't really hold overnight. If I do, I hold very small positions. I'm only holding 16K and 27K of each, which is our pretty low position sizes. Also, I also have Snapchat. Snapchat is kind of worrying, to be honest, because I should have sized lower. Honestly, I wanted to buy around 300 shares, but I just went to extra 200 because what the hell. But if you look, it did close slightly below its previous highs. You see, it closed right below this level, the 54, 55 level. But after hours, it's jumped a little bit, but there's no volume. You see, it's just 300 volume. Doesn't really count. But anyways, if it does break out, though, this is a high risk, high reward play. If it does break out tomorrow, we expect huge movements upwards, somewhere around the 57, 58 level, because Snapchat recently has been making great gains in terms of it's just strategic advancement. It's been monetizing every possible outlet on the app. Mackie bought across. So it looks pretty good right now. I'm holding a bit too much than I like on Snapchat, but I calculated my max loss and it fit my risk management guidelines. So we talked about TLRY, we talked about Etsy, we talked about Crowd, talked about Snap. Let's talk about AMD. Yeah, so AMD, we already talked about this a little bit earlier. If it closed above $98, it will be a buy. I would have bought like AMD instead of Snapchat if it closed above that level. But semiconductors, it's been trading very, very weird lately, as I've shown, like with TSMC and Micron. These candles are just, it's like they're on their period, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They just trade randomly. So if AMD does break out tomorrow, expect to ride it up all the way up. And also, most of the movement is going to come from the first around hour of trading. So if you see, this is my strategy. If I see 2 solid green 5-minute candles, bullish engulfing candles, I'll just ride it all the way up and offload on the way down. Also set stop loss as well. So if it does, if the market conditions still look good, the futures tonight do look good, expect to buy some AMD tomorrow and ride it up all the way up for the first hour. Same story for Xilinx also. If it closed above this level, it will be awesome, but it faded. So not too sure, but same story as AMD. The MACD is slightly green. However, markets can always turn. Just whether or not AMD or Xilinx breaks out tomorrow is all dependent on the market, whether the market is hot or not. Then we have MongoDB, which also doesn't look good. It used to look good around, again, 12:30, 1 p.m. before the fade. However, it faded way too much today for me to add this to my watch list. So I'm actually going to remove this from key. Looks kind of ugly. Same story for Lulu, actually. If you look at the chart, rode it all the way up here, hit exactly the yellow line. I sold. Well, I didn't sell in time. I sold all the way down here, actually. But I bought it at market open, so it's fine. But I actually lost a whole % on this 5-minute candle because I wasn't paying attention. But anyway, Lulu doesn't really look too good anymore. I'm gonna remove it from my key watch list too as well, because as you expected, if you've been following this channel, I've shown this long-term trend line for many times, and today it opened exactly here and went all the way up and then came back down. So if you early morning, if you saw it hit this trend line you would have bought like me and rode it all the way up. That's a few easy 1 or 2% easy money. And lastly, Twitter. We already talked about this. Twitter. Long-term buy is really good. Short-term, there might be some negative news, but if you're just holding for like a week or a month, I would suggest Twitter. It's pretty good dip buy. The next level to watch was probably around the 50 level. That was the previous, the nearest, strongest support and resistance level, right? As we saw earlier, this was the resistance when it tried to do a false breakout and gap down all the way 21%, and then that 5 more percent in the beginning of November. So long-term Twitter, again, Donald Trump drama could have some effect on Twitter because Twitter's main business is Twitter, and it doesn't have any diversifications, any adjacencies, businesses that expand. So if it does lose a crucial amount of followers and activity due to the Donald Trump drama, you could see some lack of growth in the future. But a bounce to at least the 51 level, I could see very, very well in the near future. So that's it, guys. To recap, I'm bullish on Snap, bullish on Crowd, bullish on TLRY. If it crosses, if it breaks its channel cleanly, I'm bullish on Etsy, and I'm bullish on AMD and Xilinx, dependent on market conditions. The market is very, very strong tomorrow morning. Look to ride it all the way up for the first hour. So that's it, guys. Thank you for watching Monday's stock watch list rundown. Preparing for Tuesday. Hope you the best of luck, and good luck trading. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe.